Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
How you guys all doing again? It's now Saturday evening. This is the Club of the Man, 1993. Getting a little used to that emotional, still adding in the new effects, but we are here for a brief video talking about some news that just happened in recent weeks with WWE. Well, within the past week, I would say. WWE did do a brief round of a few releases that I wanted to briefly talk about, because there's not really much to say about these releases. And I know we're probably getting the whole, oh, here we go again, mass releases. Well, to be honest, most of them, I'm not gonna lose sleep over them. I mean, you never want to wish anyone to lose their job, for sure. None of these guys and girl you want to have lose jobs. And there really hasn't been that many releases compared to how it was during the pandemic. Literally it felt like every 3 weeks there was 20 more people getting released and whatnot. Last fall's was a little rough because it was the beginning of the Endeavor era. It felt like Vince McMahon trying to get the last, most of them I would say, I expected. But it still felt like Vince McMahon was trying to get the last of his filth on the product until he was, going to get busted for, and we're not going to get into all that. Now it feels like most of these releases are ones that are it's just not really working. It's not working out. It's time to move on to something else. And their spots are going to be taken by people who, are going to click, basically. Nothing personal against the talent. It's just, it's just not meant for them right now. Or ever. Who knows? I don't know what I'm trying to say here is. These 8 releases are not anything to really lose sleep over. Well, one's heartbreaking. Which he is, of course, in the centerfold of this at the top. But we'll save him for last to talk about. But on April the 19th, during SmackDown, by the way, while the show in Pittsburgh, there was most of these except for 2 got released. The other 2 apparently were announced released on the 23rd, or it could have been sooner for 2 of these guys. But so far this year, the releases have been Kevin Patrick, Vince McMahon resigning, and Amari Miller was released back in February, but she didn't really do anything. I don't really remember who that Amari Miller was, but these releases were the recent releases that happened. And throughout the year, there are going to be some people getting released. And it's probably going to be just people who they're just moving on from. It's not going to be big mass batches for no reason whatsoever, but obviously there's some people I feel like that from the Vince McMahon era, Vince McMahon coming in and out. Some of these people are just damaged goods. Well, not all of them, but some of them are damaged goods, or some may not have been meant to work out to begin with, or whatnot. But let's talk about these releases. The one that I probably barely know anything about to even talk about is Guru Raaj, or whatever his name is. I don't know much about him at all. He apparently got released. Can't really talk about him, but I do wish him the best, of course. I'm not going to diss on any people. I do wish him the best, but again, I don't know about him. I can't really talk about him. So very unknown, I would say. Then we have the guys to the right here, Von Wagner and Xyon Quinn. I think Xyon Quinn, I read his bed with the company since 2018. I just think he just never really found a place to shine, if I'm being honest. But I feel like he got most of his spotlight when Vince McMahon took over NXT. Same with Von Wagner. I'm not sure how long Von Wagner's been with the company, but I'm pretty sure if Vince McMahon was still around, I'm pretty sure Von Wagner would have been one of his faces of the company. And good Lord help us all, for sure. I know there was one time they teased bringing him to like SmackDown or something and being Adam Pearce's bodyguard or something. It was a strange little tease, but it never really happened. And then both these guys, Wagner and Quinn, were both undrafted free agents, even though they were still technically in NXT, never really called up, or it was a call just to call them free agents, but they spent most of their time in NXT. Like, what was the point? I don't know. Xyon Quinn, I have no clue what he was doing. Last I remember from Von Wagner, wasn't he in that feud with Braun Breaker and Braun, like, destroyed him with the steel steps? But I just take it as they just weren't really seasoned out talents, and right now it's just WWE was not the place for them to be, basically, right now. So they're probably going to go elsewhere. Maybe they'll come back, well seasoned later. Who knows? And then, of course, the only female talent that got released that I was going to simply say is just a victim of damaged goods. And that's Xia Li. Xia Li's had a very weird run in WWE. I feel like they tried to feature her because wasn't she? She was in the Mae Young Classic. Because they tried to use that in a storyline where she had that feud in 2021 with Mercedes Martinez. And it had a pay-per-view match that, to be honest, I remember wasn't really pay-per-view quality at all. It was kind of like an undercard women's match, to be honest, even though both women are much more talented than they were featured in that match. But Xia Li, I always feel like they were featuring as someone who was prominent. I mean, she was barely getting TV time in NXT, but yeah, she was getting in like 3 Royal Rumble matches or something like that. And like they gave her like some gimmicks, like they gave her and Boa, who I'm surprised hasn't been released either. Because what the heck has Boa even been on TV in NXT? Because I've heard nothing about Boa for the longest time. But I remember being intrigued by that darker gimmick they gave her with Boa and whatever that goddess or something like that was. They were kind of like mesmerized by, but even that got a little bit hokey. She randomly got called up, and it's like it felt like every week she had a different gimmick, and it just like by the time Triple H took over and Vince was fully gone, it was too late to save her. I felt like she was someone that it felt like it's too late, and to be honest, she's not the only one that I feel like is kind of like it's too late and there's nothing we can really do anymore. Because even like she had that feud with Becky Lynch when Becky was the NXT Women's Champion, and like she kept saying she wasn't getting the opportunity, and then when she would offer it, she wouldn't take it, and then Becky was no longer champ anymore. It didn't make sense. I don't think she's been on TV since that feud. So that's someone who was definitely a victim of like damaged goods, where it was kind of like she had so much damage that she couldn't recover. Maybe she'll come back. How old is Xia Li? Let me check that out. I don't know how old she is. Xia Li. She is 35. Give her a couple years. Maybe she can come back if she does find something else to do down the line. Which I hope she does. Because I feel like she's got it. It's just they never found the right gimmick for her. And again, with all the back and forthness, it's like, nobody cared. So, then I would say before we get to the biggest one, the most heartbreaking one, but the one that, of course, was a group that got released was Indus Sher, which is Sanga, Veer Mahal, and Jinder Mahal. Now, of course, Sanga and Veer, I know that they had, like, Veer at least bounced back and forth with partners. Wasn't he a part of the wasn't Indus Sher originally with Malcolm Bivens when they first came in? They're like Bivens Enterprise. I can't remember what it was, but I remember they were supposed if the pandemic didn't happen, they were supposed to feud with Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne for the tag titles. Then it went to Jinder Mahal, Veer, and Shanky. Remember him? Because he got released last September. And then Veer was drafted separately to Raw and a single star. Hyped up for like 8 months. People made the jokes that Veer's coming. And, the goofiness there. Basically, he was the latest Emelina. When Emma was hyped up as Emelina for months, and then, of course, just for them to pull the plug on the gimmick because it just wasn't working for her. Briefly was, getting matches as single star. I'm not going to lie. I thought he had something in the ring, Veer. I thought they could make him be very dangerous, but it just, again, no character. None at all. And then they put him back in NXT when Jinder got briefly in NXT. We'll talk about Jinder in a second here. And then they got called back up just to not do anything. Remember, they had like a vignette. They debuted. Then 2 weeks later, they got another vignette saying Indus Sher was coming soon. I don't know. I remember Sanga also posted something about it. He was not happy about it, how they basically, they didn't really get much of a shot. But yeah, it was weird booking. And then, of course, we got Jinder Mahal. Which, I'm going to first say, the guy himself, the guy behind Jinder Mahal, I got nothing against. But I was just never a fan of the character of Jinder Mahal. I wasn't. I just felt like he was certified jobber that was literally just being used for marketing purposes, especially when he got that push in 2017 with the title. He literally went from being a nobody to then being runner-up in the Battle Royale for the Honor Giant Royal Battle Royale WrestleMania 33. He then gave Finn Balor a concussion, almost sent Balor back to the shelf after he got back from his shoulder injury, to be drafted to SmackDown, to all of a sudden be number one contender, then beat Randy Orton and having a 6-month dreadful long title reign. And he was going to fight Brock Lesnar because he was the Beastmaster. And then, of course, he went back down the tubes. And we all, of course, remember the many faces of Shinsuke. Oh, man. When he did those promos making fun of Jinder Mahal's face. Oh, those are bad. Or he was a centerfold in building up to that U.S. title match, WrestleMania 34. Because he was trying to provoke that Randy Orton hated the fact that he was ranked lower on that stupid top 10 list for SmackDown. And it literally, they made him look ridiculous. He was a guy that the stuff he cut, it was more so kind of like is this the best you got stuff, pretty much. And just, yeah, I was just never a fan of Jinder Mahal. Or as I called him when they first got brought back up to the main roster, Balder Mahal, which I don't know what he did in NXT. I think he briefly did feud for the NXT title. He was just more so there just to manage Indus Sher. And then, of course, he returned on Raw at day one this year, hyped up as a former world champion coming back. And when he came out, oh God, I remember the reaction. Oh man. But he did, carry himself well in that segment with The Rock. Got a world title match against Seth Rollins 2 weeks later, only to injure Seth Rollins and then get released. The Jinder got hindered. Poor Jinder Mahal. I mean, again, I'm not a fan of the character whatsoever, but again, I do feel bad for the guy. Obviously, when he was given shots, he did try. He was doing what he was working with. It's just the character is just I was never a fan of it. But, I do wish him the best of luck. Apparently, in interviews he had recently, he did say he still has many goals outside of WWE. I don't know where he's going to be, but I guess he has some stuff in mind. He's filed some trademarks already, so we'll see what he does. So I wish him the best of luck. But the biggest one, I think that was... I mean, again, all these guys, except for this last one, I would say, it doesn't surprise me. The one, though, that's heartbreaking the most, in my opinion, especially after seeing the video he posted, Cameron Grimes. Oh, Cameron Grimes. I feel so bad for this guy. So, Cameron Grimes, Trevor Lee, posted a video, about a 2-minute video online after he got his release. And he was emotional. My first memories of Cameron Grimes was when he was in the first or second Breakout Star tournament. I think he was the runner-up from what I remember. And, he was a heel for a while. And he was growing on the audience. And he had the charisma. Then he went on that brief break, came back kind of repackaged as that one guy who did put a lot of stock in video games and something like that. Basically teasing him to get a feud with LA Knight, which was a very good feud to be honest. And it also involved the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And he eventually won the $1 Million title. I think he got a very brief run with the North American title. And I think the last thing he did in NXT before he just disappeared for months and they had nothing to do with him was he did feud with Braun Breaker for the NXT title. Could have been an NXT champion, honestly, if if Vince McMahon never got his hands on NXT. Because I remember did he have a feud with Duke Hudson where he shaved Duke Hudson's head bald or something like that? I don't remember. It was weird, but anyways, he got released too. And I feel bad. Well, first off, the guy was drafted to SmackDown at last year's draft. And other than the fact that he had that feud at the beginning with Baron Corbin, which sent Baron Corbin packing back to NXT, because he literally squashed Baron Corbin with his cave-in move, pretty much. Because I remember when he first, after the Breakout Star tournament, they were kind of booking him like they originally booked Baron Corbin in NXT, where he was winning matches in 30 seconds, where he was, you had to avoid him, but the moment they hit that one killer move, which of course for Corbin was his end of days, and Cameron Grimes had that cave-in, that double stomp where he would jump so high and slam you into the ground, which was a very sick move, by the way. But anyways, Cameron Grimes, I think someone who could connect with the crowd. He could have been another top babyface if given the opportunity. And within the past year, again, maybe part of it was because Vince McMahon, dipped his toe back in. And he may have gotten, kind of pushed off to the side. Which, sucks, but he just got nothing to do. It gave him nothing to do, and he got released. So he's someone I think that WWE shouldn't have released. Because I don't think he was complete damaged goods. But that video still made me my heart break for the guy. Because he talked about how his dream was always to get to WWE. And his father passed away in 2018, I believe it is. And one of the last things he got to tell his father was the fact that he signed with WWE. My heart just breaks for the guy. You can tell he's a guy who has the passion, and that he basically wants to show WWE, hey, I'm not going to set the bar that high for him, but I hope he is the next Cody Rhodes. As far as a guy who leaves WWE, goes elsewhere to prove himself, maybe TNA or something, or unless they want to give him I don't know if he would fit in AEW right now or whatnot, but Indies, I think he is someone, and again, he's mentioned in the video too, he wants to work. So I can see him kind of floating around for a bit on the Indies before he really signs elsewhere. I think though, I can see Cameron Grimes being the next Cody Rhodes who leaves, or the next Drew McIntyre, leaves, goes and does what he has to do, and comes back. I think we can get that for Cameron Grimes. And I think of out of all these guys, he's the one that I think most likely will be back. But yeah, again, especially when he said the thing about his father. My heart just broke for the guy. But again, hopefully, things will work out for him and he will be back. And I hope things do work out for all these guys who got released. I never want to wish anyone who lost their job. There's definitely a few I'm surprised, though, that didn't get released. So there's a few that I'm kind of starting to, not say, I've lost faith in, not saying, I don't know how to put it. I just basically accept the fact that some of these people, I don't think it's going to work for them in WWE. For example, if I scroll through this list here really quick, one person that I definitely am surprised has not been released yet, Apollo Crews. I love Apollo Crews. I know he was a victim of being called up from NXT way too early in 2016. He was not ready yet whatsoever. Excellent wrestler, but the guy has always struggled to develop a character, I feel like. And I think that's been like one of the biggest thorns in his side, is the fact that he just can't develop a character. Seemingly can't. So I think that's been his biggest Achilles heel. Like, even when they turned him heel in 2021 or whatever it was, and he was this Nigerian prince and talked in this really fake accent, even that I felt was not working out, unfortunately. And they sent him back to NXT, and he got called up again last year in the draft. Like, what's he wrestled, like 2 or 3 matches on Raw? And it's like he still doesn't have a character. He is someone, believe it or not, that I think if AEW is continuing to rely more on the wrestling quality than storytelling, I feel like if you put him in the ring with people from AEW, he could have a great match. Again, wrestling ability, it's always going to be there. But again, it's the character that I think he's lacked big time. So I'm surprised he didn't get released. Bayside was booked on SmackDown last night, which we'll talk about that in the review. Cedric Alexander, I'm surprised he didn't get released either. But I'm glad he didn't. Who else can I really say? Dexter Lumis? Like, does he even work there anymore? Like I haven't even heard a thing about Dexter in ages. So I wouldn't be surprised if he would get released. Gable Steveson, it really didn't like that. When your debuting match is against Baron Corbin, and the fans turn on you and cheer for Baron Corbin, you know you've done something wrong. Giovanni Vinci, like I said in my Raw review, I think if Giovanni's gonna get any like repackaging, I think it would be in NXT, but if not, I think he could get released. So that's someone else. Anyone else I could really think of right now that I'm scrolling through this list here just to see who else could say it's just not really working out. I mean, I do worry a little about like Karrion Kross and the Final Testament. I think they should have waited till after WrestleMania to debut the Final Testament. But they did it beforehand, and I worry that, they may have booked themselves to a corner. I think that because they teased AOP going back to NXT, why don't they have Karrion Kross go back to NXT too? Just a thought there. Anybody else? I mean, probably a few others. I am concerned a little for the OC as well at Mia Yim. It just doesn't feel like they're really going to try to progress forward with them at all. So maybe, but I don't think their chances are as big as like Apollo Crews, I should say so. Nikki Cross has not been on TV in ages. I love the gimmick where she was like possessed, but then she hasn't been on TV in ages. But I think Nikki's like already like got one foot out the door from wrestling, because I know she's focusing on getting her PhD. So her maybe. Odyssey Jones hasn't been used at all since being called to the main roster last year. Omos, free agent Omos. If you're gonna keep him a free agent and just have him keep appearing in these random battle royales and whatnot just to lose, why even keep him as well too? He's someone I'm also surprised did not get released. Anybody else? I'm scrolling through here. Some people have mentioned Shinsuke. I do again like that he's at least developed like a character, but now it is starting to feel like that he's going to be going nowhere either. So if they would let him go, I wouldn't be surprised either. Tamina, like, why is she even still under contract? No offense. So that's another one. I think that's it. There's a couple of names there, like I said, like especially Apollo Crews. Again, I love Apollo Crews, but again, it feels like the character work's not there. And I feel like he's been given a lot of chances. So, like, if there would be more releases, I wouldn't be surprised if him and the few others I mentioned got released as well. But yeah, like most of these guys, I'm not going to lose much sleep over. Again, Cameron Grimes is just probably the most heartbreaking one out of all of them. But wherever he goes, I know Cameron Grimes will take you to the moon. I'll miss that guy. But I think out of all these guys, he will be back someday. Again, I think he will go elsewhere, prove himself, and I think they will bring him back someday. I can see it happening. But we'll see. So that's my thoughts, guys, on these recent releases in WWE. What are your guys' thoughts on these releases as well? Be sure you guys put your thoughts down in the comments section below. And be sure also, as always, to slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content to come on my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well at the Club of the Man 93. You should also follow me on TikTok and Instagram at the Club of the Man 1993. And until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch you guys all later. And do not forget, in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. And for I am the man himself. And that is not just an opinion, my friends. That is a fact of life. Yeah!